Will you carry my baby? Because I cannot.
If you had met them years ago, you would have sworn they shared the same blood, Amaka and Ifunanya. Secondary school best friends in Surulere. Same classroom, same church, same dreams. They used to sit on the low fence outside Amaka's parents' house after Sunday service, braiding each other's hair and talking about the future. If we don't marry rich men, Ifunanya would say dramatically, I'm not attending your wedding. Amaka would laugh and throw her head back. I don't care about rich. I just want peace and 3 children. 3. She always said 3. Life moved quickly after university. Ifunanya married first. A beautiful wedding. Gold decor, loud music, joy everywhere. Amaka danced until her feet hurt. 2 years later, Amaka got married too. Smaller wedding, softer colors, but her smile that day could light up a city. Back then, they truly believed life would unfold exactly as planned. But destiny is quiet when it rearranges things. Ifunaya's pregnancy came first. Amaka screamed when she heard, "Finally, I'm going to be an auntie." She attended hospital appointments, bought tiny socks, even argued with a tailor about making maternity dresses extra comfortable. But at 7 months, everything
We promised
changed.
to grow old together.
The hospital hallway
not grow
was too
apart in
quiet.
pain.
Doctors spoke in low voices.
I felt her kick that morning.
And when
She
Amaka
was
entered
alive.
the room,
She's strong, like you.
Ifunanya
was
like
staring
us.
at the ceiling, like something inside her had turned off. I felt her kick that morning, Ifunanya whispered. She was alive, Amaka. Amaka held her hand tightly. She'll come back, she said, though her voice trembled. God will give you another chance. But that night, in her own house, Amaka cried harder than she ever had, because she had seen what losing a child could do to a woman. She didn't know she would soon understand it personally. 2 years later, it was Amaka who got pregnant. This time, Ifunanya was the one cooking soup and praying aggressively. You will carry this one full term, she declared. But at 4 months, Amaka started bleeding. The hospital room felt familiar, too familiar. Her husband stood beside her bed, silent. When the doctor confirmed the loss, Amaka didn't cry immediately. She just stared at her empty stomach. Later that night in the car, her husband said quietly, How long will we keep trying? She turned to him slowly. As long as it takes. But he looked away. Months passed. Another attempt, another loss. And then one night he said the words that broke her.
Because I cannot.
I can't keep living in hope. I want a child, Amaka. She wanted one too. But sometimes love collapses under pressure. The marriage ended quietly. No screaming, just exhaustion. Amaka found herself alone again in her Surulere apartment, except this time she felt hollow. 3 years after her first loss, Ifunanya showed up at her door again, but this time she wasn't glowing. She looked tired. We tried IVF, she said, twice. Amaka's chest tightened. They say my body can't safely carry a pregnancy. Silence. Then, we have embryos.
Amaka's heartbeat quickened. They're healthy, Ifunanya continued, but I can't carry them. The next words came slowly. Will you carry our baby? The room became heavy.
You're not
Amaka stood
mine,
up. You're
you're
asking me
growing
to
inside
get
me."
pregnant and give the baby to you? Tears streamed down Ifunanya's face. I'm asking you because you know what this feels like. That sentence cut deep, because it was true. That night, Amaka didn't sleep. She stood in front of her mirror. Can you survive giving a baby away? She whispered to herself. Her heart answered before her mind did.
She remembered Ifunanya in that hospital bed years ago. She remembered her own empty house after her divorce. Pain recognized pain. The next day she called. "I'll do it." On the other end, Ifunanya broke down completely. "You're saving me," she cried. Amaka swallowed. "I'm not saving you. We're helping each other." But deep down she knew this would test her in ways she couldn't imagine. The clinic smelled like antiseptic and quiet hope. Amaka lay still as the doctor finished the embryo transfer. It was not dramatic. No loud music, no bright miracle moment. Just a medical procedure. But as she stepped outside into the Lagos afternoon sun, something inside her felt different. Possible.
2 weeks later, the test confirmed it. Positive. Ifunanya screamed before the nurse even finished talking. Chibuzor
carry
covered
my
his
baby
face and
because I
exhaled
cannot.
like he had been holding his breath for years. Amaka smiled. But that night, alone in her apartment, she sat on the edge of her bed and placed her palm over her lower stomach. "Stay," she whispered softly. "Please, just stay." This time, her body did not betray her. Weeks turned into months. Her belly slowly rounded. Her skin stretched gently. And for the first time since her divorce, she began walking differently, carefully, protectively. It was not her baby, but it was her body carrying it, and that made everything complicated. Surulere noticed. People always do. At the market, one woman whispered loudly enough to be heard. After divorce, she still doesn't rest. Amaka kept walking. At church, a few glances lingered too long. One older woman finally approached her. "My daughter, is everything all right?" Amaka smiled politely. "Yes, Ma." She wanted to explain. She wanted to say, "This pregnancy is an act of sacrifice. This child is wanted. This story is not what you think." But she had agreed to privacy. So she carried not only the baby, but the judgment too. At night, she would sit by the window, rubbing her stomach.
"They don't know," she whispered softly, "and that's okay." It happened quietly, a flutter. She froze. Then again, stronger. Amaka gasped and gripped the arm of the chair. "Oh!" Her eyes filled instantly.
You're
She
not
placed
mine,
both
but
hands
you're
over her
growing
stomach.
inside me.
"You're real," she whispered. A small laugh escaped her through tears. "You're actually real." Without thinking, she began talking softly. "I don't know what your voice will sound like. I don't know how your laugh will be, but I promise you, you are loved." That night she recorded a lullaby on her phone. Her voice was soft, almost trembling. "Sleep, little one. The world is waiting." She sent it to Ifunanya. There was no immediate reply. When the response finally came, it was simple. "Thank you." Short, measured, careful. And something in Amaka's chest tightened. The distance started small. Ifunanya stopped attending some appointments. When she did come, she watched quietly, observing. At one checkup, the doctor placed the monitor against Amaka's belly. The baby's heartbeat filled the room, strong, steady, alive. Amaka smiled instinctively.
Ifunanya stared at the screen. Later, in the car, silence stretched too long. Finally, Ifunanya spoke. "You talk to her every day?" Amaka blinked. "Yes, it helps bonding. It's good for development." Ifunanya's jaw tightened. "She's my daughter." The air shifted. Amaka turned slowly. "I know. But sometimes," Ifunanya continued quietly, "it feels like you forget." The words hit like cold water. Amaka's voice softened. "She is inside me,
My body reacts to her. That doesn't mean I'm taking her from you. But fear doesn't listen to logic. That night, Amaka cried for a different reason. Not because of shame, not because of pain, but because loving a child she would not keep was becoming heavier than she expected. At 7 months, everything exploded. Ifunanya arrived at Amaka's apartment unannounced. Her eyes were red. "My mother said something today," she began sharply.
You're not mine.
Amaka
but
frowned.
You're growing inside me.
"What happened?" "She said I was foolish for letting another woman—"
Carry my child, that the baby might bond with you more. Silence. And what did you say? Amaka asked quietly. Ifunanya hesitated. I didn't know what to say. The room felt smaller. So you believe that too? Amaka asked. No, but you're afraid. Ifunanya's voice cracked. I waited years for this child. Years, Amaka. And sometimes when I see you rubbing your stomach and smiling, I feel replaced. The word landed heavily. Amaka stood up slowly. Replaced? Tears streamed down Ifunanya's face. You're the one feeling her kick. You're the one she hears first. What if she prefers you? The vulnerability in her voice broke something. Amaka's eyes filled too. I am not your competition, she said softly. I am your friend. The room fell silent. After a long pause, Amaka walked closer and placed Ifunanya's hand gently on her belly. Right then, the baby kicked. Both women gasped. There it was, life, moving between them. She knows both of us, Amaka whispered, and for the first time in weeks, they cried together instead of apart. At 8 months, Amaka felt a sudden sharp discomfort, not dramatic, not chaotic, but concerning enough. Chibuzor drove her to the hospital immediately. Ifunanya followed in another car, praying under her breath. The hours felt endless. Doctors monitored carefully. Finally, the news came. Both mother and baby were stable. The relief was overwhelming.
What if she
Ifunanya
loves you
entered the
more than
room
me?
and held
That's
Amaka's
not
hand
true.
tightly.
But what if it is?
Don't scare me like that, she whispered. Amaka smiled weakly. You're the one who said she's yours. You should be strong. They both laughed softly through tears. But that night, Ifunanya sat alone in her car outside the hospital and admitted something to herself. She was not afraid of losing the baby. She was afraid of losing Amaka too, because somewhere along the way, their friendship had become fragile. Labor did not begin dramatically. It began quietly at dawn. Amaka woke up with a deep pressure in her lower back. She sat upright slowly, breathing carefully. This is it, she whispered. At the hospital, everything moved fast. Nurses, monitors, soft instructions. Ifunanya stood near the door at first, unsure where she belonged in that room. Amaka reached out her hand. Come here. Ifunanya hesitated. I don't want to overwhelm you. You won't, Amaka said firmly. You should be here.
I am not your competition.
Hours passed.
I am your
Pain
friend.
rose and fell like waves. Amaka gripped the bed rail tightly, sweat forming along her hairline. Between contractions, she looked at Ifunanya. If anything happens to me, stop, Ifunanya said immediately, tears forming. Listen, Amaka insisted gently. If anything happens, promise me you'll tell her the truth one day. Tell her she was wanted, from the beginning. Ifunanya shook her head, crying openly now. You are not leaving me, she whispered. Another contraction tore through the room, and then a cry, sharp, strong, alive. The baby's cry filled the air like a trumpet announcing hope. Amaka collapsed back against the pillow, tears streaming silently down her face. The nurse cleaned the baby and wrapped her in soft cloth. For one suspended moment, time slowed. The nurse looked between both women, then gently placed the baby in Amaka's arms first.
because her body had carried her into the world.
Amaka stared at the tiny face. Perfect. Small lips, closed eyes, soft breath. Her voice trembled. "Hello, little one." She touched the baby's cheek carefully. "I kept you safe," she whispered, "just like I promised." Then she turned slowly to Ifunanya and held her out. Ifunanya approached like she was walking towards something sacred. Their eyes locked. Amaka placed the baby into her arms. No dramatic speech, no loud crying, just a quiet transfer of love. Ifunanya collapsed into tears, holding her daughter tightly against her chest. "My baby," she whispered, and Amaka smiled through her own tears, because in that moment she understood something profound. Letting go can also be love. The hospital room felt emptier the next day. Amaka was discharged alone. No baby carrier, no balloons, no flowers. Just a small overnight bag and discharge papers. Ifunanya begged her to stay with them for a few days, but Amaka shook her head gently. "You need time as a family," she said softly. The drive home felt longer than usual. When she entered her apartment, the silence hit her first. She walked to her bedroom slowly, sat on the bed, placed her hand over her stomach. Flat again. The tears came then. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady. For 9 months, she had never slept alone. Now her body felt empty.
I kept you safe.
Her arms felt
just like I
unused.
promised.
The lullaby she recorded months ago still sat on her phone. She pressed play. Her own voice filled the room. "Sleep, little one." She covered her mouth as sobs finally broke free. She had known this moment would come, but knowing does not remove the ache. Days passed quietly. She avoided mirrors, avoided the market, avoided church, until one afternoon there was a knock at her door. When Amaka opened the door, Ifunanya stood there, holding the baby. "Can we come in?" she asked softly. Amaka epped aside. The baby was awake, alert, calm. Ifunanya walked into the living room and sat down, then gently placed the baby in Amaka's arms. Instinct took over immediately. Amaka adjusted her carefully. The baby stared at her, studying her face, and then the tiniest smile. Amaka's breath caught. "She recognizes your voice," Ifunanya said gently. "When she cries, your lullaby calms her." Amaka's eyes filled again. Ifunanya moved closer. "I was afraid," she admitted quietly. "Afraid she would love you more." Amaka shook her head softly. "That's not how love works." Ifunanya reached for her hand. "You didn't lose anything," she said firmly. "You gained a daughter." Amaka looked down at the baby. "She's yours." "She's ours," Ifunanya corrected gently. "Different roles, same love." Silence settled between them, but this time it was peaceful. Chibuzur entered carrying a small gift box. Inside was a framed photo from the hospital, the moment of transfer. Amaka holding the baby, Ifunanya reaching for her, both crying. Below it, engraved, "Born of sacrifice, raised in love." Amaka broke down again, but these tears were different. They were not empty. They were full. Months later, Amaka began volunteering at a fertility support group. She shared her story carefully, not as a victim, not as a hero, but as a woman who chose love over fear. And every Sunday afternoon, a little girl with bright eyes and soft curls would run into her arms shouting, "Auntie Amaka!" And sometimes, when the little girl would fall asleep on her chest, Amaka would whisper softly, "I kept you safe." And that was enough. Some stories are not about possession, they are about purpose.
Amaka carried a child she would never call her own, but in doing so, she discovered something greater than motherhood. She discovered that love is not measured by DNA. It is measured by sacrifice, by courage, by choosing to give when you could have held on. If this story touched your heart, don't just scroll away. Share it with someone who believes family is only defined by blood. Like this video so more people can see stories of strength like this. And subscribe for more emotional, powerful stories that remind us what love truly means. Because sometimes the greatest mothers are the ones who choose to let go.